But we are live, just to make, okay, cool.
We will be. And we are live
And
right now. And welcome. And thank you so much for people joining so quick. Oh my goodness. We have like a bunch of people. We had 27 people joined right now. Welcome. I'm Dr. Gabriella Kőrösi, and I have a great partner here today to have a conversation with, um, McKenrick. And he is an amazing author and trail mapper and adventurist, and there's so much more to say. So, Richard, thank you also for joining. I can't believe we already have almost 30 people. I hope they are real people and not robots. We find out. But just a little bit before we came live, Ru and I were talking about writing, and writing has its challenges, and Ru have already published the first book, which we published recently. And hi, Gideon, thank you so much for joining, and Jonathan. And right now he's working on the second book. So, and writing can have its ups and downs, as many of you know. Like, I had an injury last year too, so hi, AJ. And then writing was a little difficult for me, so even now it's easier for me to speak and then use the transcripts and edit them instead of writing. And um, also with time and work, different challenges and writer blocks can come up. Also, sometimes reliving the same experience. I imagine, as like Ru had, I know with the first book, there's just so many tough experiences with being on a trail. So I would be curious to hear from you, Ru, how are things going? How's the second book going? How's writing and life? And share whatever you feel like with these 34 people who are already joining us.
Good morning, everyone, or whatever time zone you're in. I'm joining us from Bend, Oregon today. And so the process of the American Perimeter Trail is there's actually 4 books in the series. It's West, South, East, and North are the 4 books. And the first one's been published, West, and I'm working on the second one. And I have just been taking it piecemeal, like the same as hiking the American Perimeter Trail, where I'm taking it one step at a time. I am used to trying to juggle a lot of things at once. So while I was hiking the American Perimeter Trail, I was also scouting it. And then, because I didn't map it out before I went, I made it up as I went. I made decisions daily, like left, right, north, south.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm navigating this part of my life kind of the same way. And during the time when I was backpacking, I was also running the nonprofit that is building the American Perimeter Trail. And so I would take I'd be doing board meetings from my tent, often, or wherever I was, because I was always remote. So I was used to having a full-time backpacking job, like full-time pro backpacking. So I've got to put in 20 to 40 miles today. But I also need to fund this trip and then promote the American Perimeter Trail and then pay the bills for the organization and take care of our membership at the same time. Um, and so I'm kind of used to that effort. But if I'm honest, recently it's been very difficult kind of managing life and trying to figure out the writing situation. I really wish I could find a residency somewhere so I could write for a while,
Yeah.
because there are 4 books. And I mean, that's probably every author's kind of ideal situation. But I'm still running the nonprofit. I'm still keeping the lights on there. It has been a rough year for all trail organizations. And especially because we're a fletching organization, we've just been around for a couple years. I started this in 2019. So we didn't have a lot of foundation and trust money to kind of rely on like the other organizations that have been around for decades. So it has been a rough, hard year for us. So I am keeping the lights on, keeping the dream alive, keeping it afloat, keeping the organization taken care of. And then also like trying to take care of myself, and then also like writing these books and et cetera, et cetera. So there's like just a lot of lifeiness going on for me right now. And I haven't found a solution. I was able to like free up some hours. I took on some like part-time work to get some extra holiday money. And I was able to, you know, be done with that and free up some hours. But I'm still kind of like every day coming up with solutions. And this was the same on the American Perimeter Trail. Like every day there were n- new kind of challenges, and just always trying to be creative and find a way through. So, it's
Yeah.
been a long haul. This started in 2019, so it's been a long haul. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's already been like 7 years.
Hmm.
But I just want to say that, don't think that you're alone with this. I think many of us writers struggle with that too. Like, I lost my job. I don't know if I told you that I lost my job in December.
Hmm. Yeah.
It was not really because of my choice, but because of the injury I had and the recovery time. And even though I'm writing, also inspiration doesn't always strike. So even if you have time, sometime it's
Mm-hmm.
just like it doesn't always work. Like, oh, I'm going to sit down and write right now in this specific topic, and um, but also the money part. Honestly, it is difficult. Even if you have the book out, and but the first book might not bring enough for you to work on the second book, and finding the time and the energy and the space. It's not easy. I have published many books and many books collaborations as well. And yeah, people buy the books here and there, one sells, another one sells, but it's not enough to be an income to a point where, one can just say, "Oh, I'm just going to write books and that's going to be enough." I wish it would be like that, but it's not. I have seen some places where you can win like a residency, like you have to submit part of your work and then you can win like, a few months worth of residency. But even those many times it's not free to submit, and there's deadlines, and the residency might not start until next year. So there's not, I haven't seen, if anybody who's joined us have seen options for authors and writers to who have something like Rule. He has done the trails, like he have done the trails. He have this 4 books planned. One is published, working on a second one. If anybody know any great opportunities, please do let us know, even if you join now or watching later, because I think every writer would love opportunities like that. Um, it is difficult to come by. Also, sponsorship would be great, but I think the economy is not good, not just in the US, but all over the world. So I think it's also more difficult maybe to find sponsors and things like that for writing books. Although I think just your topic of the trails and what you went through is so important that I really hope that you'll find something, to support you in some kind of way to be able to get this information out. Because all
Yeah.
your stories are so human, in the world of AI and in the world of all these fakiness, like you don't really know what's true in the news and what's not. Your story is so authentic, so human, so true, so down to earth. And it's so important that I hope we'll find ways to, support you in this work. Definitely I'll support you in all the books the best I can with publishing and helping with editing and whatever else you need. But it would be great to get some additional internship, financial, whatever the universe. Let's put it out. Let's put it out to the universe. Bring some support.
Well, so it's important for me to express that my entire intention on writing these books is to promote the mission of the
Yeah.
American Perimeter Trail. I'm just doing it through adventure writing.
Yes.
Um, because I could write something that's more, the literature could be more reference oriented. And I could go through, and I mean, I do this as I go through the adventure, but I could go through and explain, like, how do you form a nonprofit? How do you go about scouting the trail? Like, I could do all the technical aspects, everything down from, like, how do you read a compass? How do
Yeah.
you read maps? Or, like, how do you form a board of directors? Or how do you find revenue streams? Or how do you deal with public agencies or government agencies? That's not what I'm writing about. This is about the actual story of what happened. Now, I filter that stuff in the story as I go. So I will talk, I will take like a moment to kind of sidetrack and express something about like a partnership with the US Forest Service and what that looks like,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, or talk about like what it's like to have a membership to an organization. Like I filter that stuff in through, but this is just uh primarily what happened while I was out there. And my hope is that that just allows for the mission to be transferred and that it brings a lot of interest. So I'm kind of placating off that and I'm really enjoying it. It's kind of cathartic for me because I haven't sat down and told anyone what
Hmm.
happened out there. I mean, this is just like a thing I'm going through writing by myself. And this is kind of the first time I'm really expressing what
Hmm.
happened. And there were some things that kind of came to my consciousness that I didn't realize uh, until this summer. And that was um, how many times when, and I'm not trying to be dramatic here, it's not my intention. How many times was there a situation where I was like, this is clearly done. Like, I'm clearly going to die today. Like, this is it. It's over. And, and I got so used to it that I didn't even realize it was like kind of happening in real time sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, and I came up with like 25. Um, and then I just like some of them I like narrowed down
Hmm.
and I got more to like 17. uh, like serious, intense situations that happened that I was like, well, it's been a good run. It's been fun. It's been real. Hasn't been real fun, but so I write about that stuff in the book. And I also write about like the funny situations that happen and the people that I meet, the animals that I meet. And uh, like I said, I haven't sat down and told anyone really what happened out there. So the writing is like I'm sharing it with myself in some ways. And then this is kind of the first time I'm exposing like the nitty gritty. Because I think from the outside, uh, it's, it was difficult to understand like what I was doing on a regular day. Like what did a regular day
Yeah.
look like for me? And it was very different. It was very dynamic because it was all different seasons, all different weather, all different places, all different geography, all different people, all different situations. And so um, it was extremely dynamic. Um, but now I get like an opportunity to, share some of this stuff. Either like I've always been a pretty private person, so I didn't want to
Hmm.
share a lot of this while I was out there.
Yeah.
When I formed the organization, they insisted that I start posting on social media regularly so that we would have like I don't know an interest and some money.
Hmm.
um, and so I fought with them for a while, but eventually I saw like like if I share more, then we get like more members and get more people interested. And, but I only shared to like a certain kind of capacity. especially like, especially some of the moments, some of the frightening moments. I didn't share that much when it was actually happening in real time because I didn't want to
Yeah.
scare people.
I
I
get
didn't,
that.
I, I didn't want to frighten people what was going on. I didn't want to scare them away from the project. I didn't want to frighten them away from what I was doing. Um, so I kind of like, mm, would share lightly or kind of dull down maybe the
Mhm.
intensity of some of the situations, but I don't in the books. And
I know. And
the books
just,
are so for.
oh my gosh, and just thinking back of the first book. So those of you who don't know, Saru already published the first book, and I put the um, the his name again down there, and you can find that. We can also post the links under when this is out, this Substack later today or tomorrow. But I mean, there's situations that are in the first book and situations that we talked about in our previous interview that still like stop my heart. And
Mm.
and I could I could understand that people would be scared for you and maybe even try to convince you to stop doing the trail.
Mhm.
But 17 or 25 times coming close to that that is very scary. And I know that you done it. And I know that you're sitting here, but still those stories, I think they could also be in a way a warning, for other people. Um, that they can learn from this, that it's not easy to be out there. It's not easy to be out there in the different temperatures, in the different weather, in a different environment. And you do have to be prepared. And I remember situations that we were saying you didn't necessarily know where your next meal was going to come from, or
Yeah,
you had
yeah,
to
and
find
that,
shoes and
oh,
and all those kind of things. And oh my gosh, I'm just so glad you're here.
and a bunch of that gets very highlighted in the second book because
Okay.
I run into some, there comes a point where like the organization is forming up. I get some help, I get some support, and things are like a bit easier sailing uh, for the rest of the way. But still, in
Mhm.
the second book, I'm still figuring it out, and I'm
Okay.
still having like a day where I am not going to have a meal, but I have to hike like almost 30 miles today, you know?
Oh my gosh.
Um, and and I talk about like hunger and like dealing with that and um some of those stresses. So I like the version of why it was actually happening, I think was shinier than the reality of what it was actually like. And like I said, I
Yeah.
share that in the book. Now, I want to be clear about something. Like I do speak about the American beauty.
Hmm.
I do speak about the deep spiritual. And for those of you that aren't familiar with this, the American Perimeter Trail is a route and a trail that I created, and we have an app for it as well that we created, the nonprofit. Um, and that's free for you guys. If anyone wants to download it, you can put it on your
Yeah.
phone, and the whole thing is there. The whole 15,000 miles. But I backpacked this, and it took me a couple years, but I did it continuously, and I was alone like the entire time. Um, sometimes during the pandemic, like weeks without seeing people at all, like not a single person. So um, there is a part of it that is a deep, like I said, a deep spiritual aspect of it, and that connection with nature and that connection with myself, and knowing that I am a part of it and that I am not separate from it. And then um, there are moments of like absolute joy and delight. And there are so many angels in the second book as well that I talk about, that people, random Americans that I met and random places that uh, or not Americans that
Yeah.
or not Americans that um that helped me out along the way, um or hindered. There's some gunplay in the second book. I'm in Texas, and there is some gunplay. So I'll just let you know there's a couple stories in there that are pretty intense, where there were situations that came up. So, um, but I don't try. What I don't do is I don't romanticize the the experience, or even like the connection to nature,
Hmm.
because for me it wasn't like a heightened kind of like all moment of this all feeling of being in nature. It was just like a feeling of being connected in like
Yeah.
in uh
Hmm.
a very mature kind of spiritual way, not like in a kind of like this makes me feel good, like
Yeah.
endorphin kind of way. um And the reason for that is just, and I mean, it's not that I haven't experienced that before. The reason for that is because like I was just living it every single day for years. So for me, it just became like a part of who I was,
Hmm.
and or not a part. It didn't become anything. It just uncovered the part that was already there. It like just cleared some of the obscurations, so that I was clear about that. That I was clear that I'm absolutely an animal. And I always find that interesting where, like, when people don't relate to being an animal, where they're like, I'm not an animal, I'm a human. But of course, we're mammals, and
Yeah.
this is from my like science background. I'm like, of course, we're mammals, we're primates. And that part of me, um, didn't become stronger or didn't like build. It just, I got very clear about that over the couple years while I was out there,
Hmm.
of what I am.
Hmm.
Maybe not as much who I am, but I got very clear about what I am. And
Yeah.
I am a biological species, specimen, that came out of this earth just like the rest of us, and that came out of the womb. I had this moment, and I write about it in the second book, where I'm having some back issues, and I come into this town, and this sweet lady that I met, she's like, "Well, I'm going to take you to a prayer room." Now, I didn't know what a prayer room was. So I guess, so like a prayer room is somewhere where they take you, and it's Christian based. Um, and they take you into this room, and they like pray over you to heal you.
Hmm.
Like, I don't have any beliefs around this one way or
Hmm.
the other, but like I'm always open to like healing energy and power, you
Yeah.
know? And especially like the love that I felt from this person, where they were trying to help me and they genuinely wanted to help me. But I remember, like, so I go into this room, and these three sweet ladies are like reading scripture to me, and they're praying over me and stuff. Like, it was an interesting experience. But I remember, before I went in, the minister was sitting out in the waiting room, and I talked to him for like 45 minutes
Oh, wow.
before I went in there. And we're just having a conversation. And he said something to me like, "Well, son, are you ready to be born again?"
Mhm.
And I just, in that moment, I thought, you know, like, I wasn't even really ready to be born the first time. You know, like,
Yeah.
I came, I got my head squeezed and pushed out, and
Yeah.
like, and I came out into this world kicking and screaming, you know, and so that's what I wanted to say to him. Like, I'm sorry, sir, but like I wasn't even ready the first time around. Like, I just kind of got popped out there into this thing. Like, I don't remember making a choice about it. Um, so anyways, but I was very clear about just that I'm this mammal, I'm this animal, I'm part of this human species here. I'm part of the greater flora and fauna and ecosystem of the earth. And so, like I said, it wasn't like the high of like, I just felt like this like healing from nature all the time. But I definitely felt this very tight, mature connection where I was clear about what I am on this planet.
I just love that. And I just I just love that you're saying that you're not ready to be born in the first place, because I was not ready to be born either. I don't know if any of us can be ready. And I came 2.5 months early, and you were
Oh,
kicking and screaming. I was quiet, and they had to
yeah.
revive me or like kind of make, uh, you know, I don't know what they did to me. My mom just said they run away with me, and then, they left her there by herself because, they had to deal with me, but we never figured out how they brought me back. So, uh, great, Hall. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll talk, yeah, in a few hours. And thank you so much for all the people who joined. It's great. I really appreciate, Drew, you were saying about the connection with nature and how we are mammals. I think because so many times people, I feel like they get so disconnected from nature that it's important to have some of these experiences to bring us back to who we are really and truly. We are mammals. We meant to be connected to nature. We meant to be around nature, not, I feel like so many of us get disconnected by the way we live, living squished in towns, in small spaces with not even an area to look outside that's green. And I think a lot of mental health and society problems come from that. So I think it is just so essential that when you have a chance to go out and reconnect with that part of yourself and spend as much time outside as you can to be connected to the trees and the animals. And then I went out to the land and I spent, some days fasting and things like that. I also felt that the animals were closer to me than when I'm just going about and doing my daily business. When you intentionally go out and you're out in
Mm,
nature, you do get that closeness with the animals, that spirituality, what you're talking about, that beauty. There's just like a different type of understanding. And I don't know if you had that too, but I had that when I was out or when I'm out in nature and I'm really quieting myself and I feel like I become one with my surroundings, that the colors seem to be more brighter to me and the animals come closer, like the birds and the bees. And, if you're just there quietly or just gently going by your way. And I think the smell is a part of it too. Like if you don't shower for a few days, the animals like more, I don't know, attracted to you or something, but they do. I felt like they come closer to me. And then there's like a more in-depth understanding. I don't know if that makes sense. What do you think?
it makes sense to me, and I'm not embarrassed to say that it's definitely during the pandemic, we had to take some very drastic measures, or I made some decisions,
Yeah.
and the reason for that was because I know this sounds ridiculous to some people, but the long trails, any of the long trails in the country, were asking distance backpackers to get off the trails, to go home, get
Yeah.
out, you know. So what happened during that time is like I'm not using any main arteries. I'm making my own routes. I'm bushwhacking and I'm like figuring stuff out as I go. And also I'm like having supplies dropped at places. I'm not going into towns. Like I'm not showering. Like I'm not, I mean, like there's I am out there.
Yeah.
I'm really out there for a very long time. And that, that's one of the I read books about people. I knew it was coming. So I read
Mm.
books and part of that was because if I had stayed on like main trails and been going into towns and stuff, I would have lost my contributors and my sponsorship. and they would have dropped me because it wasn't as ethical at that
Mm-hmm.
point. So whether you agree with that or not, that was the reality of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was, I went from like extremely isolated to like next level. Like I didn't even know there was a next level. And I started
Mm-hmm.
before the pandemic, so I didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Uh, it didn't happen until I had been out there for a while. So during that time, I spoke with the birds a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the part that I'm not embarrassed to say. And I'm again, like I'm not saying it in a way of like romanticizing it
Yeah.
or like I don't know that I am somehow like more enlightened or heightened because like I have this deep connection that other people don't have. I was
Yeah.
lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the reality of it. The
Mm-hmm.
reality is not like was so connected to like to everything around me and that I have some kind of communicative piece to me that other people don't inherently have. I was lonely
Mm-hmm.
and I would talk to the birds at lunch and it made me feel better. You
Yeah.
know, I got really good at their calls and like communicating back and forth with them.
Oh, I
And
know.
and and so this is a piece again where it just like reminded me of my humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Those were it's interesting that the birds were the ones that reminded me of my humanity and like my place on this planet.
That's
So,
so,
uh,
that's just so amazing. And I appreciate you saying that. I think any of us who have similar experiences, it's not to say that I'm special or you're special, or, because I think anybody can have these experiences. I think what it requires is to be out in nature, or if you cannot get out in nature, then slow down enough to notice, because part of it is noticing your surrounding and noticing what's within you as well. And I think that can be very difficult with the fast pace of society today. And I can't even imagine, Ru, how, I mean, I know you say it in the book and we're going to read about it and
mm,
uh, all that. And I know you prepared a special preview. We have a section from the first book and the second book that you're going to read to us. So I'm very excited about that. But it's just to have that second level of isolation because of COVID, being out there alone on a trail. Like I can't even imagine how that must have been. And thank you so much for sticking with it. I don't know if anybody said to you, thank you for sticking with it during COVID. I mean, especially it was chaos out here, but I can't even imagine now that you're saying this loneliness and isolation out in a trail. I mean, thank you. That's all I can say. And I don't know if this is a good time, but whenever you feel like it's a good time, you read one of your sections anytime. So,
okay,
but
so something I picked a certain piece from the first book,
okay.
not because it's my favorite or anything, but if you get to know some of my writing, you'll realize that it's just like stream of consciousness. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't when I write, my process typically is like I just write and um I don't frame things. I don't outline like where stuff is supposed to be or like certain sections or like how I want it to flow. I just write straight out of what was going through my mind at the time, because that's the whole idea. The idea is that I am sharing with you what actually happened, not like my interpretation of like how I would have liked it to happen or how I want to interpret it to the world. I want to just
Yeah.
like give you an actual snapshot into here of what was going on. So this is one of these pieces that is just rambling and going on. But this this is what happened. So this is the day that I leave for the American Perimeter Trail. Now I know I'm going to be gone for a couple years. I know I'm not going to see friends for a couple years. I don't know if I'll have any friends when I come back. Um, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't know how many years it's going to be. I'm like taking a big jump of faith here, but I I'm getting ready to. It's the morning of, and I'm leaving Bend, Oregon. So it's 9 a.m. and I'm whirling. I start to do the checks that never end. I've done them since I was a child. Hair straight. Is this shirt okay? Why do I always look so fat? Pimple. Seriously? Where's the stupid leather wristband? My face is a menace. Today's checks go something like this. Where's my headlamp? Do I have fuel? Oh, my blade. Do I have anything left? Where's my bandana? What will it be like at the falls? The bugs are rampant. Do I have netting? Do I need to make a phone call? Is there anyone I need to say goodbye to? I have the correct maps. Take a buff or leave a buff. What's the sound of music? It feels like the first day of school. Hike south or west? Do you think you will see any other backpackers? Why am I having Bob drive me? I can just rewalk the approach. It's only 15 miles to Tumlo Falls. No blisters. Is this duct tape going to hold back the pack together? Do I have to stop my mouth bleeding kit? Ouch. Underwear or no underwear? I'll put on sunscreen now. What's the name of that song? Where the hell does the trail go in Mississippi? Aliens? I betcha. What about Bigfoot and a haircut? Have you left this place better than you found it? Where's my bandana? Anyone? My pocket's ripped. How many miles is this going to be? Look at me. No one cares about you anymore. You're going to be gone. You're dead to the world. How long can you stand on your head before you pass out? Gummy bears. I don't even like gummy bears. Meditate or go. Am I having a spiritual experience or am I a spirit having a human experience? I need another pair of socks. This backpack isn't going to make it 200 miles without repair. Why, Rue? I mean, maybe someday I would like to get married and have children. I'm actually going to do this. I'll go alone now. Sean, brother, no more eyeballs, no more people pleasing, no stupid pay the rent jobs, no more society, no more billboards. I hate streetlights. I should have done this when I was younger. All I have to do is get to the trailhead. I've already walked to it from Bend. Why didn't she come to the going away party? And where is my stupid bandana? So this is the whole, don't worry, the whole book isn't like that. But there are moments where it's like the mind was going so much. It was such an intensive moment. And I just want to give like a snapshot. So this is what's going through my mind before I head out, strike out on this big journey. Um, and I do that sometimes in the writing where I'll just give you like the snapshot of everything that goes on in our minds. Because if we, while I was out there, I had a lot of time to watch my own mind. And for those of you who do that, or maybe you have a meditation process, when you stop and you're quiet and you actually listen to what's going on up there, there's a lot. There's a lot of information.
I'm gonna put in the chat right now the link to the first book. That's just one of the places you can get it. If you don't like Amazon, if you just search for the American Perimeter Trail or Rue's Name Rue, then you can find it. So if anybody has trouble finding it, please let me know. We'll also put links, in after this live is being published and under the videos as well. So it is a great book, and I think I read the book probably 3 times now. So,
I'm honored.
because I read it first, and then we read it when we republished it, and then I go back occasionally and read parts of it. And I thought about it, things like that. So Yeah, sorry, that was my phone. I'm gonna quiet it down. But yeah, it is a fantastic book. And I love the rawness of your writing. You just totally just being honest of what happened and how it happens. And like even this segment that you were reading right now, it is what happened, right? These were the thoughts in your mind, and you're just so brave sharing it. So many of us, I try to be as authentic with my writing too. But there's certain things I'm not sharing because I just feel like that's too private to share. And I just feel like you're so freaking brave, honestly. That you just there's from the rawness of sometimes talking about underwears to skirts to whatever happened, threat, you just put it out there and you share it with the world. It's like, this is what happened, guys. I'm just letting you guys know. And I love it because I also believe it. I know you're saying this honestly and from your heart and just truly want to share the experience because probably I will not go out and have this experience. So I'm grateful that you did and I can learn about it and understand what can happen when you take on a journey like this. So thank you so much for reading that section.
Mhm. Yeah, of course. Um, and and there's like definitely through the writing, like I'm gonna tell you the funny stories. I'm gonna tell you the horrible stories and like everything in between. Um, I often will have someone ask me, like, did this happen while you were out there?
Mm.
And like they'll be like, oh, did you, I don't know, have an issue with people, or did you have an issue with a bear, or did you have a problem with weather, or did you see this beautiful thing? And I knew going into the American Perimeter Trail that I was signing up for the entire, like the whole thing, um, the entire experience.
Yeah.
And, so there was no expectation that like I'm going out for a weekend with friends and I'm going backpacking and we are going to have the best time ever. Like there was no expectation. Like I knew I was signing up for the entire thing. And if as you read the books, you're going to find out I got it. So it's like a lesson for me is like be careful what you ask for
Yeah.
because you just might get it.
You got the good, the awesome, the spiritual, the tough, the like. I mean, I don't know if there's truly words to describe your experience. Like I'm struggling to find words because it's so unique. What you went through, what you did. Like if somebody asked me, I just say read the book because I don't know how to tell
Well,
you.
well, this is something else I wanted to share. So I never had any intentions of being an author.
Yeah.
Um, I I consider myself a conservationist first because the American Perimeter Trail is an effort to create a conservation corridor. We're just
Yes.
putting a trail in the middle of it because that is the way that you do these things. That's the way the Appalachian Trail Conservancy has been able to conserve this big swath through the corridor of the Appalachians,
Yeah.
um, is by putting a recreational trail in the middle of it and something that someone cares about. And the trail is done. Like the Appalachian Trail, it's done. So they're no longer working on that. They just expand the corridor up through the Appalachians so that they can preserve this land
Hmm.
forever. Not just for our enjoyment, you know, f- for the flora and the fauna, of
Yeah.
course, as well. So, you know, I always thought of myself as like the conservationist first, probably like the pro backpacker, probably second, and the author never. So when I was out there having these experiences, like I wasn't thinking to myself like, oh, that sucked. but it's going to make a great story. Like I was not thinking in that way because I never had any intention of writing these books.
Mhm.
And then when I returned, like when I, the first loop around was 3 years, and then I ended up out scouting, and for the next 2 years, that continued on. And what I found was like I was getting so far with the organization, but every time I would do a media appearance, um, in my heart, I was interested in the conservation piece and the conservation corridor,
Yeah.
but I would go on a media something and I would tell them about like a story of something that happened that has nothing to do with conservation, but then we would get membership and interest because of the story, because I had a story, even though I wasn't talking about creating the conservation corridor.
Yeah.
So, so what I found was that writing the books would be one way. Another way of like promoting this, like I said, through the adventure writing. What I didn't know is that it was going to be this kind of whole journey for
Mhm.
me that's been like extremely cathartic at times when I'm doing it. Like so many times when I'm not writing for an audience, and I'm not initially I was just writing hoping that we could make the American Perimeter Trail a household name so that we could get national scenic trail designation for
Yeah.
it, which is my goal, right? That was my initial goal. But then as I got further into the writing, I realized like it was changing me and it was helping me. And so then there are days when I write that I don't have the mission as much in mind. Like I just want to promote the American Perimeter Trail. Um, and it's really just like a heart-centered place for me to like revisit some of these memories. And uh, because there's a lot of energy behind some of the stories, and I forget about the stories. Like I forget because so much happened. Um, And then when I'm writing, it gives me an opportunity to express that energy. And especially like, if it was joyous, then I love remembering that. And if it was traumatic, like, so it's not stuck in my body somewhere and I don't even know where it's coming from, that I'm writing about it and I'm like, oh, okay. All right. So that's why this kind of energy is going on in your body because you had this experience that you never fully processed. So here's your opportunity. And uh and it's and I'm like fully present in the writing. Like I leave this present
Yeah.
when I'm writing. I'm gone. Um and it's not a means of escape. But I am on the American Perimeter Trail every time I start writing. Like I am there. So if there's a situation that happened in the book where I'm writing about crying, when I'm writing it like in real time, I'm sitting at my computer crying while I'm writing it. Like am I am fully
Mm.
like just reliving, rehaving that thing. And if I'm laughing, like I'm writing about this time I was laughing so hard because this thing happened, I peed my pants, you know,
Yes.
I will like be like peeing my pants while I'm like sitting at the computer. Like I'm kind of like having the experience again. And I'm finding like that's helpful for my personal growth. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm hoping that shines through. And that's the part that I'm trying to share with people.
It does. I have to tell you, it does. And I love when I get into that same, like I'm truly reliving this experience, what I'm writing about, and crying and laughing the same time. And thank you
Mm.
for bringing that up because
Yeah.
I think it is so healing to write. It many times can be difficult to write down what happened in the past. And I can only imagine, especially when you write about sometimes things that were really tough, and you almost, that things could have been scary or lost your life or anything like that. I cried on your book,
Mm.
I mean, in some of the situations, it was just like, oh my God, like how you would even get through something like that, being alone out there. And I was so grateful that, like, in the first book, those guys came back for you, and
Yeah.
helped when you were collapsed on the trail. And still so many people walked by you. There were a ton of people, but nobody would help. And then those people, some people came back hours later, but they came back and got you. So, but writing, I think there's something about speaking the words and writing the words that provides this additional, it can provide closure, it can provide healing, it can also provide like some kind of understanding, at least for me. I don't know how is it for you, of
Mhm.
the whole process. Because, when I write something, it's different if I write creatively. Like this morning I wrote a poem, it's different. It's like just what came to my mind. But when I sit down and write about a past experience, I'm gone too. I mean, like all this is gone, and I'm just like in. I can close my eyes, I can open my heart, and just truly relive what happened there. And that, I think that's a beautiful flow of writing. And I feel for me that it's a very healing process.
Mm. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the question why,
Mm-hmm.
but the writing sometimes answers a little bit.
Uh-huh.
It's like a little, not the full why,
Yeah.
but I may have some questions about a couple things.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're just decisions that I made.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it helps me a little bit with the why. Sometimes it's like it feels great, like, wow, that was a really great decision.
Mm-hmm.
Um, since the routes, like I'm figuring out as I go, I make a lot of mistakes. So there
Mm-hmm.
is like a piece of forgiveness that happens while I'm writing where I'm like, okay, that was not a good decision. That was a really poor decision, but it's okay. Like that's what you did at the time. Like you're looking back at it now, that didn't make sense. That was a bad idea. So
Mm-hmm.
um would it be all right if I read something that's just like really recent? It's not edited. It's not
Absolutely.
okay.
Of
Okay,
course.
so this would be the books are The American Perimeter Trail, and there's 4 volumes. And this is from volume 2. And volume 2 is called South. And the reason it's called South is because I'm traveling the southern tier of the
Mhm.
United States. So basically, the first book is from Oregon, uh, down through California, over into Nevada, into Arizona. And then the second book basically gets us to like the pandemic, and it's Arizona, like Nevada, Arizona, over to the Appalachians. So I'm like going over to Alabama, Florida, Georgia, that sort of thing. So this is a situation where I'm in Texas, and uh, there's been horrible weather, and I'm just trying to tuck in somewhere for a minute, like just I've been hypothermic for like days at this
Yeah.
point. And this stuff happened all the time. Like I hate to say that, but it did. And I know it's like what in Texas, but it's January and it's snowing. And that's
Yeah.
it is.
Cold.
But this day it happens to be raining. Um so and I'm just trying to tuck in somewhere real quick to warm up. That's all I'm doing. And then I'm going to try to move on, but it's bad. Like I said, I've got it deep in my bones. Like I can't get the, I've been just freezing for days. So, the weather was so torrid and unforgiving by the banks of the river. I had to get in for a moment and drink some coffee. The old boys that had gathered there at their normal weekly roundup had a hell of a time with me. I kept them laughing, telling them all kinds of tall tales. The truth is that the tales were actually short, not tall at all. I trimmed off the edges because I don't think anyone can handle the real truth. Yet, I knew I was the one that couldn't handle the totality of any given experience. I was the one that turned traumatic situations into a jester and clown show. Everyone else could handle my trauma just fine. I was the one that had to cope and live with it. And these old boys laughed, and I gave them what they needed. But I was really the one who needed it. And one of them insisted I sleep on the floor at his huge taxidermy shop. The weather kept coming with torrential downpours at 36 degrees. At least it was warmer than it had been. I was It was the perfect hypothermic formula. I slept on the floor with all the animal heads and bodies. They were all abound and unfinished because I didn't sleep in the shop part of the building. I slept in the workshop part where all the heads and bodies and such were being assembled, or maybe I should say disassembled. It was difficult to say one way or the other, for the taxidermist was cutting their bodies apart, then was bringing them back to life at the same juncture. While once they lay absolutely defiled and rigamortized on the table, they now looked vibrant and ready to dash into the thicket. The predators, like the bears and the mountain lions, looked full of vigor and ready to pounce and quickly dispatch their prey. And it was like that for each one of us, and our spirit and in our attention, Dr. Frankenstein, that so many people referred to as God. And we all wanted to be reassembled and have our lenses replaced with glass aspheric eyeballs so that we may finally see the world for what it actually is. And we all wanted to have our tongues replaced with resin silicone composites so that we may finally find the right words to say. And we all wanted to be decapitated so that we would no longer be burdened with the trappings of this body. So we'd no longer have to deal with this entity that seemed like it was separate part of ourselves. And we no longer had to judge it or feel it or deal with the estranged partner anymore. And we all wanted to have balled up newspapers where our heart had once been, because newspapers only tell stories from informational perspectives and they don't bother with the emotional weight of a beating heart. So, hmm. So I had a lot of time to think and like a lot of time alone, and a lot of time to relate to just whatever was around me, because humans weren't a big part of the equation. And so, like I was talking about, talking with the birds, I'm sleeping on this concrete floor of this taxidermy shop because it is just, the weather is so bad and someone offered this, and it's dry. I mean, it's cold, it's concrete,
Yeah.
and it's cold in the shop. There's no heat back in the workshop like at night. It's cold, but I have a sleeping bag. I'm dry, you know, I'm sheltered, I'm safe. And there are just all of these animals, hundreds of them. There's a shop place part of it where people come in and they can buy things or there's displays. But I was back in the workshop part of it. So some of them were in different stages, like some of them were being worked on. Some of them were finished. They were all in different stages. And what I'm talking about, and there is in relating to like whatever environment I was in. And that's what I tried to do, like in the writing, is I relate to whatever is around me. And a lot of the times I'm out in nature. I lived outside for a couple years. This situation, I happened to be in a taxidermy shop. And so I'm relating myself to what is around me. And what I'm talking about is these aspects of being a human. And I'm looking at these animals that are being worked on, and they have to take out the eyeballs and they have to take out the tongue, and they cut their heads off. Or they keep the bodies, but they have to remove the organs. So they take out the heart. And there was a part of me at times, this is not all dire, so please don't misunderstand. But there was a part of me at times that related or even like felt like the animal was lucky in some way. Like it no longer had to feel the body, because that kind of backpacking is painful. It's not painful all the time, but it's painful a lot. There's a lot of pain. It's too much. It's too much on the body. It's just too much. It's just too much on the body. So there's a lot of pain that comes with that. So there are times where I wanted to be disconnected from this body. And there are times where I wanted to be able to see things differently than I was. And especially during the long stretches when I didn't see people, when I did finally see people, I sometimes couldn't find the words. I didn't know what to say. And during, like, uh, when I get emotional, a big part of the journey was loss. And I could have never expected that. But I ended up losing a lot of people during the course of the trail. And I have no idea why. I'd never had that happen during any other stretches during my life, but that was part of it. And so like just like a warning, there's lots of joy and beauty and fun stories in the second book, but it gets intensive right off the bat. And I don't mess around. I get right in there because there is loss. And if you read the first book, you'll find out that one of my best friends was actually supposed to be backpacking the first section with me. And he died just before I left. And I had to I didn't even make his celebration of life because I was already leaving. So I didn't stay because I came up with some sort of story that that's what he would want. And I don't know that that's true. But, it was like I didn't even have time to stay for the celebration of life. Like I just had to, I didn't have to. I didn't have to do anything. I decided to leave.
Yeah.
That's what I decided to do. And I just really wish that he had, I just wish he would have been with me that first month. But so, like I said, just trigger warning, there is some loss that comes in the additional books, and there's some stuff that happens immediately starting in the second book, and it's just what happened. And I've been so fortunate that I went through a really long grief process this summer with the help of a professional. And writing about it and writing about my friends and my family. I lose my brother during the trek. It's an honor. It's really an honor to get to write about them. So.
It's hard to find the words. I remember your loss is from the first book, and also that scene that you just read about the animals, it just resonated with me so deeply. I could not hold my tears back because I know what it means to be out in nature and then to find this shelter, but find in such a place. But I also, through my head injury this past year, I felt a lot of time that disconnection, what you're talking about, that I am not fully myself. And it's not that I don't want to live, but it's just a different, like you feel different, um, like sometimes empty and hollow, just like what you described, just like what you described when an animal is being taken apart. And wow, I just feel what you read into the depths of my bone, and through my heart. It's and all those losses. How many people you lost altogether to while you were out there? Do you know even know the number? How many?
Yeah. Yeah. It like, pretty much while I was out there, it was 10. And then I'm sorry, while I was out there, it was 9. And then just like directly after getting back, it got up. It's, um, it's 14 at this point. And it's just like, I haven't, I'm kind of beside myself about it because
That's a lot of people to lose.
it's left a huge hole here. If I'm honest, um, I've only been back here in Bend since October.
Mhm.
I was, as you know, I was back here before,
Yeah.
but then I was gone again, and then I came back in October, and there's a huge hole. Like, there's not a day that doesn't go past that I still call these people, uh, not on purpose. Like, I still pick up my phone and call them because I am just so used to like that being a part of my life. And so, um, after being gone for so long, I definitely have a disconnect from this community in the way
Mhm.
that I did, the way that was different before. So
Mhm.
I will find myself like needing to talk to someone or do something with someone or like go for a hike, usually.
Mhm.
And I'll find myself like calling these dead people by accident, because I'm just used to it. And then, and it's left a big hole because then I haven't replaced, you know, I don't want to use the word replace. I
I
just,
understand.
I have not connected. It's been a huge adjustment being back in society. Like, let's just say that it's been a huge adjustment. Like, I'm doing the best I can with it, but it's been, um, uh, a challenge that I didn't know if it was going to happen this way or not, but it's been difficult, um, and it's been not a challenge like connecting with people when I'm in proximity. It's more been difficult getting myself in proximity of people because I just got used to being alone for so long. It's just that's the way that it worked out. Um, and so I'm definitely looking for friends. Yeah, definitely. and and that's, I guess that's the other part too, is like a lot of friends became like, I met a lot of people around the country that I'm still friends with, but they're not like here in proximity.
They're not close.
Uh,
Yeah.
we're not close. So I've had a difficult time just reintegrating. And you know, like a lot of the small stuff I've kind of gotten over. Not completely, but like the lights are a problem every day. but
So right.
I don't make a big deal about it, but like I'm still not adjusted to it. It's not bad, but I just notice it. Okay.
Yeah.
Like the hum of a refrigerator
Oh my
is
goodness.
like drives me like, uh, I do have moments with that. I'm sorry. I do have moments with that where like if there's an electronic sound or something somewhere, I will like just go outside and like go somewhere because that stuff still is active for me. Um,
But those are not natural sounds. I know when I was out in a land for 2 weeks and coming back, even just looking at a phone, listening to
mhm,
messages, driving in a car was horrible. And
yeah,
after my brain injury, any sound, any light, you just want it dark and quiet, like,
yeah.
and just anything. And my ear is still ringing from that. But for a moment when my ear is not ringing, like those electric sounds or any sounds can just like trigger the ear ringing again, a headache, and just uncomfortableness. And you just want to be out of there. So I totally understand that feeling, what you're, and this and the sensitivity to the lights, to the sounds. And honestly, as humans, we're not meant to live with this much noise. We have so much noise in our surrounding. But I just also want to say, uh, coincidence or not, but I've been working with an author who is an amazing therapist, and she wrote this book about grief that we are just in the process of
Mm, mm,
publishing. So I
mm.
hope that when it's out, I can get you a copy because I think she's amazing. Her name is Samantha Turpin, and I love the book she wrote. There's so much to learn about grief, and especially in our society, sometimes you have this like, okay, like if somebody dies, you get 3 days off. Like how you even process or even begin to process anything that has to do with grief in 3 days. Like it's just pretty much impossible just to even wrap your head around that. And you were saying 14 people. I still don't really feel like I'm fully over my uncle dying. He died when he was 19. That happened like almost 40 years ago, and it still comes up. He was so young. And that's when those why questions come up. Why? Which there's not really an explanation. Things happen, like right,
Yeah.
death was an accident and people die and all those kind of things. So there's not really, an answer. But your mind goes there. Why? What if? What if I could have been there? Well, probably nothing would have changed. But those questions come up with grief, and it's not just that. Like I feel their presence. I know the energies out there. I know what they would say if they would be here, like my grandma and other family who have passed on and friends. But it's still, I wish I could call them. I wish I could see them. I wish I could talk to them. And you can't replace them. You can't. You can make new friends or not, but it's
Yeah.
people, some of those people, like I wish I could talk to my grandpa again. I wish I would met my other grandpa more than one time. And but we can't do it. We can't, they're gone. They're gone from this realm as we know it.
Mhm.
And we can feel them, we might feel their energy. I think it's such an honor of them when we write about them. I love to write about my grandma and my uncle and the people I know, because I feel like them, when I'm speaking and write about them, I give them another way of being.
Yeah.
I give them that. And I love when you write about your friend. It's just, and such a complicated topic. Thank you for bringing
You
it up.
you know
So,
what?
oh, grief.
Oh, yeah, I know. I wanted to just, yeah. I the tears definitely come up when I think about that. I feel good about that. It
Yeah.
feels good to feel something because I had times on the American Perimeter Trail where a text message or something would come through on the phone. So there's not like service to
Yeah.
hold a call, but I might turn it on and like a text would come through, but I can't respond to the text.
But
because
you could just.
I don't have enough service to respond. I can just get it. And I know someone's dead
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, call home now, 911, something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's something in the text where it's like, oh, this is okay. Someone's dead.
Mm-hmm.
So then I would have a couple days to make up who it was.
Mm-hmm.
And what would happen, or what did happen, is I would be certain 100% who it was. And then I would get to town and get service, and it was someone else. And then I was really like, because I mean, this summer I had to break it to someone that someone had passed, right? And they just, they're a chaplain, and they were asking me, like, are you sure? Like, are you absolutely sure? Like, I'm like, no, this is what it is. And they're like, that piece of denial.
Yeah.
That's just like, no, no. So I would be convinced it was someone, and then I would get phone service and then find out it was someone else. And then I was like, no, 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 no. It's this, it's just interesting how the brain would work like that. And I did have moments where it was like, okay, so I don't know how to get out of here, but I will get out of here and I will get on a plane. And it would be like, Rue, the funeral was 5 days ago.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
And and I would just be like, and then
there's.
and then and then I would just be like, okay. I'd hang up the phone and I would just be like, I have 20 more miles to hike today.
And I just lost someone, and they had their funeral.
And I would just I missed the funeral. There's no point in getting on a plane now. There's no point in like doing anything. So I just
Yeah.
strap my pack on and off I go. And so I knew I kn- I kn- I knew in some way that when I got back to the front country, like when I left the back country, when I was done with the 5 years, I knew those chickens were going to come home to roost. Like I knew it because I just could not, like I came up with all these compensatory coping strategies that a person does when they're alone for that long period of time.
Mm.
And a lot of them were really healthy. Um, a lot of things like just rituals and stuff that I came up with, and prayers and ways of being and thinking and doing things that were meaningful to me that helped me during those years of like the crushing isolation. But there were other things that I created during that time that aren't really necessarily my baseline, like who I'm normally operating as. But I created them as a means of like surviving the emotional turmoil of these things that happened that I had to do completely by myself. I'm not a victim to that because I decided that, you
Yeah.
know, like I'm not a victim at all. But that is what happened. And part of the coping strategies, they were just meant to be short term, you know? And then so it was just like how to deal with this situation. So it's like a really horrible situation happens. Like I have to swim this swollen river or something and I survive it. Like I don't think I'm going to survive it. I survive it. And then I don't feel anything. This is
Mhm.
not the whole entire trip. I'm talking about like it was varied. Like it depended on the day. It depended on the day. But so I swim a swollen river. I don't think I'm gonna survive it. I survive it. And I'm like, don't feel a thing about it. Like I don't really feel joy. I don't feel scared. I'm not afraid. I just kind of like, what's next? Just do like what's next. And so that was a short-term coping strategy that I came up with. And then I did the same thing with the grief. Not
Mhm.
all the time, not every
Yeah.
situation, but it did happen where it was like, okay, click, I need to go hike 20 more miles today. Like I have to go put in another 20 miles. And
Yeah.
I'm just going to go do that. Like, that's it. Because it, what I found was it's really difficult for me, I guess. It was really difficult to explore the emotional context or the layers of what grief looks like in those situations by myself.
Not out and not out there in a trail.
And not out there like thousands of
It's
miles
not the
away from
time or the
home.
space because you have to focus on survival.
That yeah,
And
so it didn't make any sense. Like, yeah, there's no time like if I run into a situation and I'm grieving and like a blizzard pulls in, and I'll write about this in book 2 so you can read about
yeah,
it. You know, there is no like I'm not going to sit down and just be like I am tired. I want to just rest. I feel sad because I lost my friend. You know, that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is like, I'm going to like walk through that sucker. Um, because I know like I'm not going to survive in my tent or under my tarp. And
yeah,
I'm going to like walk through that thing. And I don't care if it's like a 50-mile death march, but I'm going to do that in order to save my life. And I'm not going to feel much about it because there's no room for feeling. The energy is like all going into like, let's survive this. So I came up with some short-term strategies and like if I'm going to be very vulnerable here today, like I am in the books, I don't want to do this on video.
that's fine.
I feel better writing, but the
Yeah,
thing is like some of those short-term strategies, they weren't meant to be long-term strategies, and I have brought them back with me, and I've had to disassemble them. And I like have spent a lot of time like changing some of these ways of being that were working for me out there, but they don't work for me here. Like
yeah,
they work against me here because they want me to like deal with everything on my own.
yeah.
You know, they still like operate. So just like last month, I lost a friend to suicide,
Oh,
and because of this like these short-term compensatory coping strategies that I came up with that have like outworn their expiration date, I like first thought, even second thought is um I'm not going to participate.
mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a really good friend of mine, really good friend. And I'm like, I'm not going to participate. I'm not going to a celebration of life. I'm just going to do the next thing in front of me. Right? This thinking that I created while I was out there for so long.
Yeah,
And like I said, it wasn't every time, but I had to use it. At times it helped me. At times it really, really helped me. So, you know, my friend completes suicide. He takes his own life. And I'm like, I am not going. I had to force myself to go. And it was such a beautiful experience. And like, he's from a very small community, and everybody in that entire village was there. And it was a huge kind of ceremony, and it was gorgeous. But my first thought you know, I'm still trying to break is like, you're just going to do this on your own, and you're going to do the thing that's the next thing in front of you. And um, so like, here I am. You know, and like I said, if I'm going to be honest in the writing, I try to just be like real about where I'm at, and like folks can meet me where I'm at or not. But that's part of the like emotional journey and stuff that maybe I had a little bit of an idea about, but I didn't really know. So like I said,
well,
when I go,
how
yeah,
could you like even imagine that you're gonna lose that many people
yeah, I
while
didn't
you're
think
out in the trail, and then think about how to process that while being out there alone?
it's just not even a good idea.
Yes.
I just bypassed it. Not every time, not every time, but a lot of time I just bypassed it because that was what made sense. And I don't regret it because there wasn't anything else to do. The only
That's what
thing
you
is, like,
right.
there were so many situations where like the only other option was to quit,
Yeah.
and quitting wasn't an option. So if you take that off the table, like, I had some other options that weren't good options, but it was like that's what I had to work with, or I quit,
Yeah.
or I quit. So
I'm just so amazed that through all that, you persevered. You you did it. You kept going. And when you're talking about this strategy, like you made a choice to do that, you had to for the survival. With and I had some of those experiences in the past when it was a trauma,
mhm.
that it was too much to deal with, that it's almost like a disassociation. You have to
Yeah,
put it away. You can't go there, because if you go there, you're gonna break, and you cannot break right now. You
yeah,
have
cannot
to
break. It's
you
not a
have
safe.
to do what you have to do.
It's
Is
not a safe.
just to survive,
It's
to
not a
keep
safe
going.
place to. It's not a safe place to break.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you're alone, and like if the water source is 20 miles ahead of you, you need to go to that water.
Yeah.
You- You've got to keep heading towards that water. So
Or you die.
however that works out, but that's how it works out. So
There's there's so many amazing, painful, but amazing life lessons you learned on this trail. And I'm just so grateful that you're sharing it with us. That you're sharing it with us here, and you're sharing it in the book you wrote, and then you're sharing it in the future books you're currently writing and planning to write. I think you have a voice that humanity needs to hear. So I'm so grateful for you, Ru. I'm very grateful for you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your experiences with me, with with the 54 amazing people who joined us today, and for all those people who will hear your voice through Substack, through your writing, through your book, through YouTube, or wherever they find you and find your sharing your experiences and having conversation,
thank
honest
you.
conversation,
Yeah,
because that's a
th-
gift too. Because I feel your energy. I feel that you share from your heart with no expectation, just to share, just to build community and support and share your experience. And that's a rare gem in itself. And I just want you to know that. So thank you so much.
yeah.
We've been almost
Thank you,
going
everyone. Yeah,
almost for an hour and a half. So I just want to ask you
yeah,
last words you want to say, kind of. We should
yeah.
go up a little bit. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I look forward to doing this again. And what I wanted to say is the American Perimeter Trail Conference is a 501(c)(3) nonprofit. I do run the conference, and we do have membership. You can find us at americanperimetertrail.org. There you can find the entire interactive map, and it'll give you links to that app that I told you that we created that you can get absolutely free if you want to load it onto your phone. And feel free to become a member or contribute, and read some information, find out some stuff. Otherwise, you can find us, American Perimeter Trail, on any social media. And then you can find me, Rue McKenrick, wherever you find stuff, you find it.
Well, you have some online presence, so you just have to search his name and you'll find him. And we'll put all these links under the Substack and under YouTube and everywhere, so you guys can have access to it. And thank you so much. I'm so grateful that so many people joined us today, and I appreciate everyone who was here today. And Drew, thank you. Looking forward for the second book. I can't wait to read more and for future conversations.
Great.
Bye, everyone. Have a beautiful day.
Fair winds.